The night Martha Diven died, the whole town of Willow Creek felt a quiet shift. A kind of sadness that didn't shout, it whispered. And standing right in the center of that silence was Arthur Diven, the man everyone believed was the strongest person they'd ever met. The man who never missed a Sunday prayer, never forgot a neighbor's birthday, and never once broke a promise. But that night, something inside him broke. I'm about to tell you a story of love, betrayal, and a revenge so quiet, so patient, that nobody knew it was revenge. Until the very end. And it all began with a single promise Arthur made beside his wife's hospital bed. The machines beeped softly, almost apologetically. Martha was fading. Her breathing was light, shallow, like a candle trying to survive a storm. Arthur held her hand, the same hand he'd held since he was 17. And she whispered, in a voice so thin he almost missed it. Art, promise me something. He leaned closer. Anything, sweetheart. Promise me, you won't let her ruin what's left of your life. Arthur froze. That was the first time Martha ever mentioned her. And that word alone cracked open a secret he had never expected. Martha swallowed hard. Art, when I was sick last year, someone came into our home. Someone who wanted more than friendship. Arthur felt his heart stop. She tried to come close to you, close enough to break us apart. Who? He whispered. Martha's eyes glistened. Elena. Elena Cross. Arthur's breath left his lungs. Elena Cross. His late brother's widow. The woman whose tears he once respected, whose suffering he once understood. Martha gripped his hand tighter. Art, promise me, don't let her win. Don't let her take you, or take what we built. He nodded, tears falling silently. I promise, Martha. I promise on my life. But Martha didn't know that this promise would take Arthur into the darkest chapter of his quiet, gentle world. Because what Elena wanted was everything. After Martha's funeral, people visited Arthur day after day, bringing food, flowers, and memories. But only one person walked into his home like she owned the place. Elena Cross. She wore all black, but her smile was anything but broken. Oh Arthur, she said, throwing her arms around him, you must be devastated. Her perfume, too strong for that small living room, clung to the air like a warning. Arthur stiffened. She had forced her way into his grief before he could even catch his breath. I made you your favorite, lemon pie, she added, brushing past him, walking straight into his kitchen like she belonged there. Arthur watched her. Every movement felt wrong. Too familiar. Too comfortable. Too rehearsed. Elena, he said slowly, you don't have to do this. Martha passed, but that doesn't mean you need to take care of me. She looked back at him, eyes sharp like glass. Oh Arthur. Don't be silly. Martha would want me to look after you. Besides, you've always been like family. Family. The word felt contaminated in her mouth. Arthur saw it clearly now, the way she moved, the way she looked at his house, his things, him. Like she wanted all of it. And when she placed the pie on the counter, she said something he would never forget. You know, people heal faster when they're not alone. And I'd hate for someone like you, someone so kind, to be lonely. Arthur felt the chill go through him. Because that sounded less like comfort. And more like a plan. The discovery. That evening, Arthur sat alone in the living room, staring at the half-finished quilt Martha had left behind. A quilt filled with memories, stitched with love, patience, and the gentle hands of a woman who never asked for anything. But as he picked up one of the fabric pieces, something caught his eye. An envelope. Hidden under the quilt basket. He opened it slowly. Inside was a letter. Martha's handwriting. Art, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I didn't want to bird. Arthur wasn't a young man anymore, but grief had given him a new kind of strength. A quiet determination. And so his investigation began. Not with anger. But with questions. Small ones. Simple ones. The kind that make people talk without realizing they're revealing secrets. And the first person he visited was Old Man Lewis, the town barber. Lewis had known Elena since she was a girl. Arthur stepped inside the barber shop. The bell above the door jingled softly. Lewis looked up. Arthur. You holding up, son? Arthur nodded. Trying my best. Lewis gestured for him to sit. What brings you in? You barely grow hair these days, he joked. Arthur gave a small smile. Just needed a trim, and maybe a little conversation. Lewis snorted. You came to the right place. Ain't no secrets in this town. Arthur hesitated, then asked casually. What do you think of Elena? My sister-in-law. Lewis paused mid-snip. Well now, that woman, she's something. Good something. Or bad something? Lewis leaned close and whispered. She's always had a taste for what doesn't belong to her. Arthur's heart tightened. Lewis continued. Your brother? God rest his soul, the man never smiled in his last years. Folks said Elena drained the joy from him. Arthur swallowed. Did anyone know why? Lewis nodded. Money. Control. Some say she tried to get her hands on the Diven land even back then. Arthur stiffened. The Diven property, his home, was the most valuable land in the entire county. Lewis lowered his voice further. And rumor was, after your brother passed, Elena got real close to anyone with a widower's heart. Men with houses. Men with savings. Men who didn't know her game. Arthur felt a cold realization washing over him. Elena had done this before. And she wouldn't stop. Lewis turned him around gently and whispered in his ear. Be careful with her, Arthur. That woman smiles like honey, but she's thinking like a fox. Arthur thanked him and stepped out. The town whispers. The sun had barely slipped behind the line of old cottonwood trees when the people of Willow Creek started talking again. Because whenever the porch light at the Diven farmhouse turned on, it reminded everyone of one thing. Arthur Diven had not broken his promise. Not once. And that made people curious. Some admired him. Some pitied him. Some whispered behind their cups of sweet iced tea. But Arthur. He didn't care what anyone thought. He cared only about her. His wife. His Martha. Every evening, as the sky faded into that soft mix of gold and purple, Arthur took his usual place on the porch. His rocking chair creaked like an old friend who knew all his secrets. He held a cup of warm chamomile tea, Martha's favorite. He breathed in the quiet. And he listened. Sometimes, if he closed his eyes long enough, he could almost hear her humming. A soft tune. Something she used to sing while stirring her pot of soup. Or folding laundry. Or brushing dust off the windowsill. A tune that made their small American farmhouse feel like a warm, living heart. But tonight, something felt different. The wind carried a strange chill. The sky held longer shadows. And a memory, one he had tried to forget, came crawling back into his mind. The night Martha told him the truth. The truth he still hadn't spoken to anyone. The truth that changed everything. The truth that forced him to make a promise that nearly destroyed him. Martha's last night. That night had been quiet. Too quiet. Arthur remembered it like it was yesterday. The rain tapped gently against the window. The house smelled like lavender because Martha always kept a sachet under her pillow. Her breathing was soft, almost fading, like someone slipping into a dream they didn't want to wake from. And then her hand reached for his. Cold. Shaky. But still full of love. Arthur, she whispered, there's something I need to tell you. He had smiled. He had tried to hide his fear. I'm right here, Martha. You don't need to be scared. But she shook her head. No. It's not about me leaving. It's about what I did. And you deserve to know. Those words. That tremble in her voice. The look in her eyes. Arthur would never forget it. Not as long as he lived. Narration deepens, suspense rises. He remembered his heart tightening. He remembered leaning closer. Martha, what do you mean? What did you do? And then, in the dim glow of the bedside lamp, she whispered a confession that shattered him. Arthur, someone betrayed you. And I didn't stop it. The world around him froze. He couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't even blink. He only stared. At the woman he loved more than life itself. The one person he trusted more than anyone. Telling him something that cracked his soul. The secret of Willow Creek. Arthur swallowed hard, forcing his voice to stay calm. Who, Martha? Who betrayed me? She hesitated. Her eyes softened with guilt. And then she whispered a name. A name that would change everything. Henry Caldwell. Arthur felt the shock.